7. We going?
Yeah.
So let's do this, man. Rob, you gonna fucking clap or something?
Give us a clap.
What did you just say about cursing?
Yeah. And
Yeah, but we didn't clap. That was before the clap.
It was before the clap.
No,
It's
that's
always,
after the clap.
it's always before the
That's
clap.
a real one.
After the clap, no bueno.
All right. Hey, everybody. It's Rob from National Fire Radio. Very excited tonight in the studio with Flowandvent. Jeremy, Tucker, Rob, Mike, and Chad's not going to really say much because he's not allowed, but he's here.
Wow.
Wave to the camera.
Yeah.
Hi.
All right.
What was that?
Well, that was a great.
All right, so if we're if we're doing, no, we got to start over. This blows. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. That was terrible, Rob. Because are we going live with this? Are we set up for live?
We can go live whenever we want. We're not going live right now.
Okay. Well, I want to.
Because it sucks right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jesus, thank God we didn't. As a rule, I generally go live, but I'm like, all right, good, we got some good shit here. Let's talk.
Oh, man.
And Jeremy's already taken a break.
Fucking.
I think that's gonna be the first time we've had a legitimate blooper reel on a podcast.
Well,
All right.
there's always a first for everything.
Hey, Rob, let's start.
You ready?
I am.
Watch what he's doing down there.
Hey, everybody, it's a...
I don't understand.
Take 3.5.
That's great.
Another one. Third time's a charm.
Okay.
Hey, everybody, it's Rob from National Fire Radio. Very excited tonight. We're in the studio with Flowandvent. We've got Tucker, Jeremy, myself, Rob, Mike, and Chad, who's all going to have a limited input today because we were told that he was restricted on his words, but we'll see how he works out. So, what's going on, guys?
Chad, you'll do great.
guys?
Yeah.
You'll do fine.
Yeah.
Just follow the cue cards.
Yeah.
They all say Jeremy, National Fire Radio.
All right. Slow it down.
So, I'll give you a signal like this, and you'll be like, that's a home run.
Yep. All right. So we're starting that way. Anyway, guys, welcome. Rob always starts us off, and then I tend to just jump in on top of him. But I have to say this. This has been a long time to make, and we were just talking about this before we even started. Mike and I have known each other for many, many years. I've known Chad for many years. We all run in the same circles. New Jersey, and I have to put a little plug in for New Jersey while we do this. There's a lot of incredible things coming out of the state right now. Little state, but making a big impact on the fire service. And we're happy to have you guys here, man, and just hearing your story. Rob, Mike, Chad. Got it down pat. All right. Listen, man, we want to dive in. Like, what's the story of Flowandvent? Where do you come? Where do you come from? What are you doing? Why are we doing it?
Why?
Yeah.
We just started. No, it was kind of a beast back in 13. A bunch of us from our mutual aid came together as a venting group. It started out, guys weren't getting trade. It was that awkward where a lot of the older guys were either leaving or kind of just, you had families now.
Right.
And there was kind of a lapse with the younger crowd. So we came up, we were just always venting, talking about training and whatnot. And, cheesy enough, it turned into like, we started making these little training clips and it grew and grew. At first it was called New Age Fire Tactics. It was cheesy as hell. You're like, what are a bunch of kids going to do with this?
Right.
But then, a couple of years went by, it went kind of rogue. Then we did a duty crew program in our area, joined up with Mikey.
That's
he saw
when
the
it
animal,
kicked
and then it really started to, fly.
Yeah.
And then, as you guys see the last
So
couple
how
of
long
years,
after that was like the start of the whole thing to the point where you actually became Flowandvent?
2 years, maybe.
maybe 2 years, yeah.
It really started off. Honestly, it started off as just a group of us that would get together and complain about everything and everything we could find to complain about in the fire service. We complained about, and how we would fix it, and how would 4 20-some-year-old kids fix the fire service. The question everybody has.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it kind of started as that, and then I think Rob and I started talking more about training and you just get behind things, because like Rob said, it did start off with that. At that point, we were all in departments that the older generation was leaving, the younger generation had the middle-aged guys, and the middle-aged guys had families, young kids, and it just, there was no common denominator, and we had to there had to be a common denominator somewhere. And that's where we kind of got the idea from.
Yeah, I mean, like the one kid went to, he wrote in PG for 11, so he was big into it. He was a fire suppression engineer, one of those, whatever the college part.
Right.
The degree everybody gets.
Right.
He's now a cop down there, and even now he'll shoot us messages here and there. But he's like, this thing, he even sees it. He's like, you guys are like, this is more than just, oh, here's how I tape
Right.
my Halligan today.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like, you know, like the way you guys are growing up, the way that the hook and can pages are blowing up. It's, you know,
Yeah.
like you said in your previous podcast, this thing, the Jersey scheme is really starting to
Jersey
Oh,
kind of took
bro,
off.
without a doubt. And I think what's fun about that for me is I think it's just the way the fire service is happening. And you know, I kind of want to back up to a few things, but just to go a little bit deeper on that is once something's good, the Flow and Vent group, you guys are growing. Hook and Can are growing, right? So National Fire Radio, we're not even a year in yet. You know, like these are things that like we're having success, and then as those stories of success get out there and we gain following and some street credit and you know validity to what we're doing, you start to see a lot of pages pop up.
Yeah.
And so like I would say in the last 6 months alone,
Yeah.
the amount of like training pages that
Yeah.
have popped up is incredible, right?
Oh, yeah.
And this is something I definitely want to dive into as we go. But I want to just backtrack a little bit to what Mike said, and Rob, you too, is that you guys were a bunch of 20-year-old kids sitting around the firehouse talking about how you would make changes and change the fire service to make it better. Every 20-year-old kid does that.
Yeah.
Because every 20-year-old kid thinks they know more than they do,
Absolutely.
right? And we sit in departments where we always think our department's the worst one, right? It's always better somewhere
It's always
else,
better.
right?
It's always greener.
Right.
Always.
So there's always something better, and we want to pursue, and we're so good, and we're so gun ho, and we're so much better. And I'm not slamming 20-year-olds because I was the same way, right? I think where I'm going with this is huge kudos to you guys for doing something about it, because 99% of the time those 20-year-old kids will sit and bitch and bitch and
That's
bitch,
it. It just-
and they don't take it anywhere.
Oh, and that becomes
No, they do.
toxic.
They become
They become
cranky
well,
old men.
Right.
It
But,
becomes
so Rob,
toxic.
talk about that.
Because, well, no, I just say I think that's because when you guys were talking about like how you're in a venting group, a lot of times you look at any, I don't want to say any group in society, but really any group in society and what's their problem. They're stressed and they don't have a way to vent that out and put it out there. And like oftentimes, like I know from therapy and critical incident stress management, that when you're upset about something, it's really an unorganized thought that's what's giving you an anxiety. And the minute that you say like, hey man, like I just think it's cool sometimes to wear my hat backwards, even though I look ridiculous. Like now the thought's organized and it's out there. And I think that's awesome that you, like I say, you took it from a venting group and
I mean, don't
really
get me wrong.
put it into something.
We vented a lot. There's many phone conversations with all of us that just it's just how to get it off your chest.
Yeah.
And like
Absolutely.
you said, if we didn't do something about it, somebody would eventually done something about it. There would have been another flow event somewhere, I believe. But we were just the ones who said, you know what? Instead of just bitching and moaning every single time something goes wrong, let's figure out a way to
Instead
change
of
it.
just keeping
And then when we figure out a way to change it, let's promote the change to the
Exactly.
guys that are coming up behind us.
I think that's the biggest takeaway from this, right? Is that how do you make it worthwhile? You know, we all sit there and we all complain and we all have our sounding board, whether it's one guy or six guys that are willing to listen to you, right? But it's the guys that are willing to stand up and make the change because they don't like what they see or they think something needs to change. Those are the guys that are making a difference, right? And I can't stress that enough because we, and I'm sure along with you guys, but we have a very large following of like 30 and under for our content, right? And I'm sure you guys do too. And I can't stress that enough. Like we hit on, our pages are kind of different from each other because you guys are very much head over heels training, and we talk more about just tradition and culture about the fire service. So this is a really nice mix to have you guys here because it's different points of view, but it all comes back to the same common ground. But where I'm going with this is that so often these younger guys, they're looking at us, and we have to lead by example, right? And the content we put out has to be in line with the best interest of the fire service, and not best interest for us, but the best interest of what this job requires. And so for you guys to do that, I think where I'm going with this is the younger guys that follow us and follow you. I hope that they understand that what we're trying to put out is to make a better end product.
Yeah.
And to sit around and bitch and moan with your buddies and say that this needs to change and we don't do this right, but then they don't take any corrective measures, and they'd rather just sit around and bitch about it, but then go home instead of making a conscious effort to change.
Exactly.
Is big.
Because I think you could sit, after drill night, get back, everybody's complaining, the click goes over there, this click goes over there. You can complain all night, but why not do something about it? That's half the battle.
Well, that's it.
Because you're going to waste all that energy just sitting there complaining, throwing darts at somebody rather than taking a step back and like, all right, this is the issue. Well, let's talk to these people. Maybe it will work. If not, oh well.
And I think too, like you guys all come from different departments, right? Right, but you found each other. I know there was a duty crew program that you guys, I guess, all came together in, but you guys found each other because you have a common theme, right?
Yeah.
You wanted to make a change. Like you weren't satisfied with what was in front of you, or you felt that what was in front of you could make better. And I think that's great. And I think that goes to a testament of what you guys are doing now, because I follow your page and I try to digest all your content that you put out. And I think you're doing really good things. And I think for the fire service in a whole, what you guys bring to the table is very valuable. And I think being on the platforms that we're on, we tend to take leadership roles over the traditional side because we're where today's attention is.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's just what social media is. That's where everything is going, And you're 100% right where we're today's attention. And if our page or your page or the Hook and Can or any page out there, training, anything, if it gives one good piece of advice to a firefighter, that's all I think we all want. I think that's all we all ask.
Absolutely.
It just, to me, if one person walks away with something positive from us, then our job is done.
Yeah.
And that's why it's like sometimes we'll post a video or share a video from Christian or Etna or something, and put our take on it. Just because they run the 400 footer this way, doesn't mean it's going to work for you. But it might work for you.
Right.
So why not have the discussion that like when we built the rig in Nimes District, let's call it that.
Yeah.
We didn't have bumper lines. We had like a trash line. But you discuss it. You go, these guys run it this way. Their piping is this way. It could be an interior line because you're not getting the rig in this way. So why not train on it now? And over time, the guys liked it, and now they use it that way. But again, it started with just having that conversation is the first step.
And I think having that conversation, but being willing to have an actual conversation.
Yes.
Because a
And that's
conversation is two ways.
Yes.
Well, right?
And the other thing too, I just want to jump in real quick, is that so one thing I found out about the fire service a couple of years ago is a really smart guy from New Rochelle, Barry Nietzsche, and he's a consultant, and he says, well, all people pay me to do is, somebody comes up with a great idea in the fire department, and they come back to their membership and they say, hey, I have this idea on how to change a truck so it works a little bit better, and people go, no, Rob, we're not interested in anything you have to say, like, thanks a lot, but we're going to do it our way. And then, but at the end of the day, like, he comes in and he'll say the exact same thing that Rob says, and now it's, whoa, Rob, how did you not hear about this? And you're like, I'm going to hit somebody with a brick in a minute. But like the pages provide that medium for people because they want to change. And oftentimes they'll be like, well, hey, like where'd you find this idea? And it's like, well, hey, it's on this Instagram page, flowandvent. Like, look at what these guys are doing. And I think that's one other way social media has really changed is now they can say, hey, see, it's working here. Why won't it work here? Does the fire burn differently in New Jersey?
Exactly. I saw a great meme we talked about on a podcast months ago. That is, firemen hate two things: the way it is and change. And I think that, and like you brought up, Rob, there's different ways to fight fire across the country. It doesn't matter where you're from; you have your way of doing it. Our idea is show you how we do it, and maybe it'll work for you. Like you said, the consultant comes in, and all of a sudden it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Well, they've been doing it over here for 30 years. It's just. With social media now, I feel that people's eyes are being open. The blinders are coming off because you're so used to doing it your way, that's it. Well, now, the blinders are off. There's different ways of doing it. It's the same objective, the same goal.
To get this before, you had to go to the major conferences like FDIC and that, and then you sit around a round table like this, and we talk about, hey, how do you guys fight a car fire and stuff. And before that, there was really none of that. And you never got together with people outside of your area. Yeah, well, we know how you fight the fire. And hey, did you see the way they do it? But everybody's like doing it the same way in the area because there really was nobody getting out and talking to people. But now with the internet, just we do these little podcasts. It's getting to everybody if they want it. And then they can do with it what they want. Might try it. It may work for them. It may not. But, like you said, you threw it out there.
Yeah, it's trial and error. And just because we do it one way doesn't mean you have to do it. Doesn't mean you have to change. It doesn't mean you have to even look at it. But just being open enough to see that there is another side of the coin is a big step. I think in the whole fire service in general.
I think too it's going to be really good because, especially like here tonight, I know, and it's one thing that we've talked about. We know that we are making a difference, but like tonight, there's somebody who's tuning into this podcast as a probationary member, or they're new to the department, and they're getting frustrated, and they're going to hear us talking about like these positive changes and how we're taking them, and like that's going to give them the motivation to hang in.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. You know, we talked about we did a probationary podcast, our probate podcast, and that was one of the things we said is like, as much as it feels like you're underwater, you just have to keep pushing because it's going to get better. Mm-hmm. And it sometimes, like you said, it does feel like they're drowning, and there's no light at the end of the tunnel. And why did we do this? Why did I sign up? There's no need. But like you said, you know, someone's going to listen tonight, and hopefully it changes their mind on that.
It's pretty wild, right? Like I never expected when we started this that ever there would be, or I would be, or Rob or Tucker, any of us, Sevi, any of us would be put in a position of influence.
Yeah.
And I just looked at my Instagram now, and there's 8 direct messages sitting there that I haven't answered today yet because I've been on the road all day. And every single day we get between 10 to 20 direct messages from people all over the country, asking us our opinions, asking us for help, asking us for you name it, right? And this goes from a 14-year-old kid to a 70-year-old guy, you know? And it's really incredible because for me, I always preface it like, hey brother, this is how I would handle it, but that's just me type of thing, right? And I never expected that we would have any type of influence that I think are starting to have. And so with that, and where I'm going with this, comes a tremendous amount of responsibility, right? Like we talk about how great the internet is, and we talk about how great social media is for the fire service, and that this is where the attention is, right? The next generation of firefighters is digesting content like this. Yeah. And this is where, if fires are down, right? And these kids, if we're talking about maybe the volunteer service for a minute, or even career services, fires are down, call volumes up. I think a lot of our members with not that much experience gets a real false sense of understanding of what this job is about, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. When you don't go to a lot of fires, but you're always at the firehouse and you're always running out on runs, you get very comfortable becoming an alarm specialist, and you think that you're the shit, right? Mm-hmm. That happens. I was one of those guys. I think all of us probably all at one time, right? Exactly. Yeah. So where I'm going with this is that for us to have a formalized page, it's great to digest content on social media, and it's great to see what people are putting out there. But when we have pages like ours with influence like you guys have with the amount of following and us and a lot of these other social media pages, with that comes a tremendous amount of responsibility that the content we're putting out, however we put it out, represents us, but it also influences the people that are watching us.
Oh yeah.
Right. And we have to really be conscious of that. And what I'm concerned about is there is a tremendous amount, like I said in the beginning of this, in the last 6 months, there's been a huge uptick in pages popping up. I think it's great. I think anything that's trying to make the fire service better is good. However, because of the young viewership we have and you have, I always preface it with this. Digest it. It might not work for you, but make sure it works.
Exactly.
Whatever you see is not Bible. Whatever you see is not truth until you make it tried and true yourself. And for you guys, like, for me, we're just a bunch of guys sitting around talking about tradition and culture and a senior man and how the workflow should be and what we want out of the job and what we expect and what you need to do. And you guys are talking about a whole different animal, right?
Yeah.
And so, it's, the content you put out could influence a 20-year-old kid. And if that content's not legit, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And you don't scrub that content to make sure that what you are putting out, like, there's repercussions.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And so maybe you guys want to talk about it, because I have to think that type of content really weighs on you guys.
we've caught. I mean, if with the social media animal itself, everybody's catching flack.
Of course.
No matter what. And I mean, we've had plenty of haters, but if you don't have haters, you're not doing something right. That's the way I look at it. You know what I'm saying? Because if everybody likes what you're doing, either you're full of shit, or you're just copying the text to a T.
Right.
And there's so many times we're doing videos, and when we're posting the video or we see something that we like, we test it out at least 3 times.
It's like, I mean,
and then even when you're writing a post, he'll send it to me, Mikey, Chad, and we'll proofread to make sure that it's correct.
There's a
and
whole
makes
process
sense.
to these little clips.
There has to be.
So like even these 1-minute clips, at first we were doing just the iPhone video.
Yeah.
And then one of our guys who works for Panavision is like, Rob, you went to school for film. use your skills.
Right.
So now we've had those last couple coming out.
Now we have the iPhone X.
That one right
Better
there.
skills.
But you know, it's
That was only for
now you got to show 2 angles, and then you got to discuss what went wrong, what can go wrong, how to do it, why not to do it. Because some kid's going to see you forcing a door and go, "Oh, that's the way to always do it."
Yeah.
No, absolutely not. This is just how it worked on this prop in this instance.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You always have to be ready for that. It works for you. It doesn't work for them. But you always have to be ready for the one person who sends you that direct message. But we tried and it didn't work. Okay, we understand it didn't work, but did you do it the way we did it? Is it a special? Is there a reason it didn't work for you, or are you just copy and paste and think what we're doing is what you have to do? You always have to be ready for those people that tell you it doesn't work, it's never going to work, and you're full of shit. Okay, that's fine. Your opinion is, we get it. It works for us, and I think that's one of the biggest things that people, don't realize is, like, Mike and Rob said that when we put something out there, it's proofread, it's watched, it's edited, it's done. So when we know we put it out there, we're giving you the best thing we think we're putting out there.
And I think that's when Jeremy talks about all these pages popping up and that it's anything that's good for that is good for the fire service with the responsibility. That's the responsibility end of it, because I think that even for what we do here, we're talking about culture and tradition and like I said, the senior man and all this other stuff, like, and some apparatus innovations. First time I didn't say interceptions. Thank you, Brett.
Apparatus high.
Yeah. But like, there's a responsibility to do that.
There is.
There's a lot of work.
Look, you mentioned that. It's funny, Mike. The one day we had Lucas, Mike, and we were just doing door shots all day, and they came up with this really wacky way where you put the pry in first and you bang in the the hook part. It was wacky, but it worked.
Yeah.
You got more leverage on one shot. I didn't post it because it's kind of wacky.
Yeah.
To be honest,
It was
we had a whole
using a straight
discussion about it.
hook, and the flaw that I found is, we were using a door prop, and that has a
It already
lot
has
of
a
give
substantial
and
gap.
like and when we tried gapping it, I'm like, well, it works, but it doesn't really at the same time. It works for this prop, and theoretically you could do it, but it's going to take longer.
Yeah.
So,
You're gonna waste your energy.
And that's where, like, we just talked about the responsibility. That's where, okay,
Yeah.
we tried, it worked, but it wasn't pretty, but it still worked. But if we put it out there, how many people are going to do this? And God forbid it's in a life and death situation, and it doesn't go the right way. And it's because of what we put out there.
Yeah, and you see everybody. All the big names, the big three, they have their training pages. All these little ones are popping up. It's great, but just the biggest, most important thing is just stay open. That's. Can you teach it? Is it natural? That's a whole nother animal.
Yeah.
Because some people will be like, oh, that's it, we're done, locked in.
Yeah, and the other thing I want to hit on too, and you guys made a good point of it. I had a conversation when the Misfit guys started, right? I talked to Bo and Z. I talked to those guys at length before they started their page, and we talked for quite a long time. And I just talked to Bo today actually. I talked to him every couple of days. Great guy, great young fireman out of Memphis. I mean, he's just doing great things. And long story short, I told them though, I said, you have a tremendous responsibility. If you want to start this page, you have a tremendous amount of responsibility because you very quickly could become something bigger than what you are.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I said, and you have to understand that. And then I said the other end of it, I said, please understand that this is work, right? If you want to make a difference, it's work. Like you guys post continually 5 to 7 times a day. Like we do the same thing, right? You gain growth and a following that way, but it's also to validate who you are, right? And so where I'm going with this is when you do original content like we all do, the amount of time it takes to put out original content is mind-numbing. And I think about just putting out one post, let
For a minute
alone-
clip.
Yeah.
A minute clip, how much time it takes.
Right, and for people that are listening and watching down the road and so on, a lot of these guys don't do any of this. And so I have to say, and where I was going with the Misfits, I was talking to Bo, and I said, Bo, understand that, if people, want to see more from you, understand it's more time, right? People, we're not just copying and pasting, right? It's not a buff page, right? We're not copying and pasting and we are creating original content. And when you create original content, it's a tremendous undertaking. And so it's just a big difference from guys that can spit out 100 posts a day.
Yeah.
Anybody can repost pictures,
Just do it for you.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, so anyway, I wanted to hit on that too. But anyway, so let's move a little bit. Let's talk about how you guys kind of got into this. I mean, we talked about, who you are, we talked about you guys came together and a bunch of 20-year-olds sitting around like we all did, right? And you guys wanted to make a difference. But like, what kind of background? Like where, you know, you don't have to, whatever you want to talk about, but like what fuels your desire to do this, right? Like why?
I don't know. For me, you know, I'm a first generation American, straight up. And I tried it. I'll be up front. I was one of those kids that did it for college credit. Joined the volleys for college credit. Tried it out, but it stuck. You know, I went to Colorado, interned there, came back, kept riding in all the areas, ended up working on my master's, worked in the city for a little bit, and then, you know, got hired and still volunteering.
Right.
I love it.
So you're on the job now, right?
Yes.
Career fireman, and you still volunteer?
Yeah,
Gotcha.
love it. But you know, just like I said, the content. You know, we all grew up watching the videos from the big companies. They're
Right.
great. But how? But you know, to an extent, like you said, with the younger generation, like, all right, I'm gonna watch a 6-7 minute clip. You know, I know, like, for the younger guys that I've been able to mentor, as a young kid, you're still mentoring these days. It's crazy, but you know, they're not going to take away the same information that, you know, the older generation might have taken away from that video.
Right.
So why not hit all the points and keep it rolling? And that was kind of my approach to it. And you know, it seems like it's working, it's growing, but you know, I've been a boss here and there in a couple towns. And
But why training?
why training?
Yeah.
I mean,
Like okay, college credit, you come in, you get the hook, right? You like it, but like I know 1,000 guys that
I mean, for
I know
me,
1,000 guys that love the job, but
Yeah.
they're not into and promote. You know, they're just like, yeah, man, I love going to fires, but
yeah.
they're not swinging Halligans every Friday night. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, no, for sure. I love it. I mean, for me, it was more than just, you know, the riding aspect. Obviously, like you said, call volume in our area for the towns I was on was down.
Right.
So you had to make up time and take care of it somehow. And the way it was training.
Yeah.
So after that, it kind of grew. The older guys kind of let me, float and take care of more objects, more opportunities. You know, became the TO over there. And then once I started getting at that level, you know, they were sending me to Colorado for the crew training. You know, I met like the Joey D Foundation, the guys over there, and it just, once I was in that network, you can't lose it. You love it.
Right.
Because you're nonstop training, you know, even like this, sharing ideas, BSing with guys, and it goes a long way. You know, even as something as simple as a tool. You know, like we brought back the Denver hooks to Allendale.
Right.
They have them on 3.5. They're beautiful. They're crazy. There's a lot going on, but if you know how to use them, there's one less thing you have to carry. You
Right.
still have, now you have another free hand to carry a Halligan.
Right.
You know, so it kept going, it kept growing up, and you know, as Mikey said, now I started hanging out with Mikey, and now, you know, you get introduced into their training program.
Right.
You know, I had the opportunity to go where Tucker's from, help out with a couple drills, you know, pilot, you know, concept classes that I, you know, did. They let me come in and take care of it. It was phenomenal.
Right.
And after that, it was just, I don't know if it was a drive or like it's like a weird what's the word I'm looking for? It's like a weird connection, like a weird relationship. You know, once you get it, it's like,
It's almost like a different level of the
it's
fraternity.
weird. Yeah. To an
That
extent, because you know, doors open up. Right? Hey,
Yeah.
what'd you think of it? Come on down. Let's have a beverage. Let's talk about what happened today. I mean, it's like I didn't think of it that way, but it might work next time. Come back to the drawing plan and redo it. And you never know. It keeps growing. So
I think that's one of the interesting things about New Jersey is that just being the outsider here from New York, like you guys have that ability to, because it's not just you who said this, like there's other people we've had on the podcast who talk about that ability to work with each other and like go back to that drawing board and not have, I'm not saying that there's never been an ego that's popped up in any of this stuff for you, but like somehow you've gotten a result where other places it's just like, screw that guy.
yeah,
We're just not gonna call him.
Don't get me wrong. You know, we all hit roadblocks here and there. The guy
Yeah.
I break my chops. Don't do that. It's stupid. Don't do that. But you know, then other guys in the house start to pick up on it, and if it's not about the majority taking over, but if guys start to train, the whole mentality of the house shifts.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that I kind of controlled the output of it, but if more guys, if one guy's running training by himself, the company probably won't survive with training. They're just gonna go back hanging out and that's it. But if one guy influences another guy and it grows into a giant group, you have a shot.
How do we do it? And so these are questions
This is
people, and
$1 million
I'm sure you get that $1 million question
Oh, yeah.
all the time, right? Hey guys, I'm a 20-year-old kid. I'm in a rural fire department. We don't go to a lot of calls. I get the same old nonsense that we don't want to, the guys are content with the way we are.
Yeah.
We're not New York City, right?
Yeah.
We're not this, we're not that, right? But I want to do more.
Yeah.
How do I change our culture?
But because you're not New York City, and those guys go out every day, you need more of that training because you're not doing it. Like
Yeah.
In our area,
Yeah.
we go in a lot of auto accidents,
But
gas calls, and that sort of
It's the
stuff.
same.
I think what Jeremy's
And there's
getting at-
not as much firefighting, so you need to continuously train on that, so you're
How
up
you-
to
how
date
you-
and
how you
remember
get
how to
that
do it.
drive.
But getting that drive and creating that culture is where I think where Jeremy was trying to point. Because like I know there's departments in Pennsylvania, and there's some really awesome departments, and then there's some that are just like exactly like what you would, that's going to fit a stereotype anywhere in the country.
Yeah.
And that's that 20-year-old. Like, how do you get them to build that culture up? And I think really it probably comes down to the buddy system. We teach it in the fire service.
Yeah.
Find that one partner and start
Just
training.
try
Because it's
to-
always contagious from there.
That's
You know what? Go ahead.
That's
Go
pretty
ahead.
much how I got involved. Was Rob was in the academy, and I had joined that year. And then around the summer, when he finally finished up and he started being able to volunteer again, he saw that I was always around the fire department, but I didn't want to just sit there like I was doing stuff. And then that's when he kind of got me involved. And he's just like, well, I kind of run this training page. I want to take some pictures and introduce you. And then he saw that I had that drive, that I didn't want to just sit here and do nothing.
Right.
Like, I wanted to do it. And then we started bringing it there. And I don't know,
Yeah,
it's just,
It's a
like you
mindset.
said, it's the buddy system.
I think-
And that's,
I think, and what, it comes full circle from our page to your page, in my opinion. In my opinion, one of the things the fire service really does lack is that backstep talk anymore. Is that sitting at the table and just chatting.
People
People,
they tend to scatter.
they
as
tend
soon as
to
the
volunteer
alarms
fire
go.
department,
Yeah.
you come in, you sign your name, you jump off the rig, you scatter.
Yeah.
I
You
don't
got
think
somewhere else to be.
it's not just volunteer.
It's not just volunteer.
Yeah.
And in my
Yeah,
opinion,
it's
it's starting, it really is lacking. And anybody could sit at a table and tell war stories. Anybody could sit there and tell you how many times you went to a fire and how many times you did this and how many times you did that. I think one of the biggest things with training in our page is we want to have it that we can open up and we can talk about the training and debate about the training. And okay, we just did a search drill. What went wrong? What went right? How would you change it?
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the biggest things. And I think that's not how you fix it, but if you start getting guys involved and instead of just we pull lines, we spray water, we pack hose, we go home. Instead of just doing that now, it's you pull the line. Okay, the Minuteman worked. What about the modified Minuteman? What about the triple load? What about the donut roll off the front? If you start to expand people's minds, the conversation will come back. And with the conversation comes back, that starts showing, guys want, okay, well, they're really talking about something good tonight. Maybe I'm going to hang out for a little bit. Instead of just a quick sign your name and get out. Or a
There
quick
also
put your
seems
jacket back
to
on
be
and
a
go.
lot less critiquing after even small drills. But we used to do it after we used to have giant mutual aid drills, and afterwards the critique. The problem with that was it was critiqued amongst the bosses.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it never flowed down. And if it flowed down further, then somebody might go, oh, but I think what we did here, and they may not say anything there, but they may say something
Back home.
later.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then we're also not doing it for those small things. Let's say we run those drills that you're talking about. Well, did you talk to this guy that's brand new? What did you like? What didn't you like about that?
I think
so
if you give
things
other
aren't
people-
going down the line, and they're not asking people to open
Yes.
up and talk to them.
I think if you give people opportunities to think on their own,
Yes.
it opens a lot of doors. Because, it's, in the fire service, sometimes things are just slammed at you. You're going to cut an A post every time you go to the car accident. That's how we start. You cut the A post. Then you cut the B post. Or you pull this line off the rear. You pull that line from the side. If you give people an opportunity to start thinking, now it's opening up the door for a lot of conversation to be had all over the place. And I think that's one of the biggest things with training is, yes, we train with forcing doors, we train with pulling, we train on everything. But don't just stop with the physical stuff. Sit down and talk about the training. Sit down and discuss what you guys did, how we can better it. There's always going to be another angle to look at. Look at every angle. If it doesn't work, do it the way you've always done it. But don't just keep on that straight and narrow path and never look another way.
Yeah, that's like, Mike will attest to this in our Valley House. One thing that I'm big on that guys have liked and some guys have hated is just making sure that everybody's aware of what's going on. In terms of, why is the tanker this way? Why is the quint this way? All right, we've had it for 20 years. We might not need it. We might not have a need for it now, the way it was built 20 years ago, but at least I want everybody to know why and what could be done and what are the 6 options. Same with, all right, you're the second due truck or the first due truck to, a box outside your zone. All all right, technically we should be doing truck work, but just guys, be aware of we may be thrown as like everywhere around here. You might be doing a hose line or stretch or whatever, but just always have your bases covered and know why, how, when, or what.
I think you guys hit a lot of great points. I think we missed one thing, and this is a lot of what I stress is don't lower your standards. You know, we talk about building a culture in the firehouse, right? And you guys talk about training culture, right? We talk about popping doors, right? We talk about throwing ladders and stretching lines, and open communication about how we train is excellent, right? And I'm all about talk, right? And I think Rob, I think you're 100% right. Open communication eliminates or takes away a lot of the potential for bitching and griping, because if everybody's brought up to speed and everybody knows, then there's no question, right, of the unknown, right? When we have a lot of unknown and things are gray, people will find room to complain and talk and so on, right? So open communication is huge. But my thing is, we're talking about impressionable guys. We're talking about younger guys. And, I talk about don't lower your standards. Don't lower your position or your stature, because your position, you might be the new guy, but if you're gung-ho about it, don't let the other guys drag you down.
Yeah.
Right?
And that could be a tough battle for some guys.
Without a doubt. And let me tell you something, brother. Like, the fire service is not easy. On all fronts, man.
Yeah.
On all fronts, right? Whether it's an actual going to work, or it's dealing with the bullshit back row stuff, or everything in between. It's not easy, right? It's a fraternity, right? And you're talking about a lot of different personalities under one roof, and everybody knows better than everybody else. It's finding that common ground. But for the young kid, you're right. They can get walked on. They can get stepped on. I always stress, don't lower your standards.
So
Don't. Go ahead,
I
brother.
actually heard this quote today.
He talks.
It says, the quote says, we don't rise to the level of our expectations, we fall to the level of our training. So, that's exactly what you're saying.
What does that mean to you?
What does that mean to me?
Yeah.
It means that if you think that if you're talking about doing something like we were talking about before, but you're not doing anything about it and you're just gonna bitch and complain about it, what's the point?
Flow and vent.
Exactly. And to me, it's like what we're doing is exactly that. We don't want to rise to the level of our expectation. We want to follow. We want somebody to be able to go back on their training and take something away from it.
And what's funny is recently on social media there was a post going around of the saltiest of the saltiest guys, working a door, just in black and white. It was a picture taken recently. It's like, these guys have been doing this for 40 years. It might be a door prop, but they've been doing it for 40 years. You want that guy or that one kid that's done it once? The repetitions count. Look at, football players, Super Bowl's coming up. They practice. There's a reason why they're at that level.
Without a doubt.
It's the same, in my opinion, not the same, but extremely close, similarities with the amount of training you put in, you're going to get when you have to perform.
Right, but that $1 million question is that kid's in a department that's stymied and he can't train like he wants to. How do I make it better? How do I change his culture? And I simply say to him, don't lower your standards.
Yeah.
If nobody else wants to train with you, you train.
Yeah.
You do
Exactly.
everything you can do.
If
and
they
you know
don't do
what?
it at your house, go next door. You,
Right.
I said, you might meet somebody
Right.
that's super buff down the street in next house, next company, next town. They might say, hey, you know what, here, sign this form.
But you know what I love? Positivity is contagious.
Oh, yeah.
And, there's so many negative people that want to bring down the positive ones because then everybody's miserable, right? But the guy that shines and the guy that stays true to who he is, and if he truly wants to be better and he holds himself to that, and that's tough for a 20-year-old kid to do, to walk the line in a house with a bunch of guys, that's tough to do, right? But we have to instill that confidence in them and say, believe in yourself. Believe in your skills. Believe in what you want out of this, because we all join. I don't care what your reasons are. My personal reasons is to better myself. The last thing I'm going to do is walk into an organization and lower my standards because there's a bunch of chumps in here.
Yeah.
Right? Rise above it. And you know what? You rise above it, there's probably another kid next in line that was the same way you were, but he wasn't as strong, and he might have been knocked down a few pegs, and you might just very much be able to get that next guy to join you. And then 2 guys are working a door prop, or 2 guys are out running saws one night, and a 3rd guy walks out and says, what are you guys doing? You want to build culture. Rome wasn't built in a day.
Yeah.
What we do in building our culture in the fire service, it takes time. This fire service is very, very old, man. It's the oldest industry other than prostitution. What's so funny?
That's a home run.
It's
That is
That's a home
history,
run.
my man. But you know where I'm going with that? Like,
Yeah, no, definitely.
and that's the thing. Like, it is $1 million question, right? Like, how do we do it? I don't know. That's my take on it, right?
I think you nailed it though. Positivity. I think you nailed it. And like you said, you stay positive. It's going to get contagious, and it's going to be contagious. One guy walks in a crappy mood. It's going to bring people down all day.
It does all the time.
We've seen it every single day. Private sector, in a firehouse, wherever you go. You're in a crappy mood. You're going to be down all day.
Yeah.
One guy walks into the firehouse and is willing to help the younger guy out, or is willing to do something above and beyond. It's going to be contagious. And if that keeps up, that's what's going to drive everything forward.
I agree.
And if it doesn't keep up, then it's a sinking ship.
But it should be said, right? Like we all have bad days.
You're gonna have a bad day.
I had a horrific day yesterday. I rarely ever have bad days.
Yeah, but it's
right. I'm not bullshitting.
No,
Like,
yeah.
I'm a very positive, straightforward guy.
Really, or what did I tell you? You got one bad day down.
Yeah. And yesterday was my birthday, and I had a crappy birthday. Right. And it was just a terrible day all the way around. And I'm so glad you started to go live on that. But it was a crappy day, and I called Rob, and I was thinking about this today in the truck. I was in a car all day today, and I was thinking about this. I rarely lean on anybody for anything. I'm my own type of guy, and I don't really have any idols. There's no like anybody I really look up to. I just do my own thing, right? Yeah. But I called Rob yesterday to talk about some National Fire Radio stuff, and I ended up venting to him for like 5 minutes, just about like, man, what a crappy day, and blah blah blah. And it was cool because I rarely ever do that, And it was just really like right in my face. but what's it called? And it goes to show. But where I'm going with this is, building that culture, and a guy has a bad day and walks in the firehouse, that can tear down the whole place.
Oh, yeah. It will.
But if you have something good there. The other thing is you walk in the firehouse on a crappy day, and you know what? We talked about this with Pennington the other day on that podcast that we put out. You leave everything at the door, and you walk in because you're there for the firehouse. Yeah. And you know what? Your day gets much better.
For years, I think, and Tucker, you could attest to this. For years, you guys can too. Whether you're having a bad day or a good day, whatever you were having, when you walked into that firehouse door, everything stopped, and you were at the firehouse.
Yep.
And either your day became better, or your day was the day, and then when you left, you picked up where it was. I think that still happens today. But if that one person can stay positive, if you're having a bad day, when you walk in the firehouse, I think it'll bring your mood up, and that's what needs to happen. Whether it's through training, whether it's through just a simple sitting on the back step and talking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We talk about mental health like. Everyone talks about it, but it's something like that you need in the firehouse to get you through, whether it's a bad day.
Get rid of your baggage.
That's
a place
you need that. And I think that's where it lacks a little bit. And like I said earlier, one of the things I feel that's lacking in the firehouse is that back step, is that tabletop talk. Whether it's, you don't even talk about the firehouse at all. Whether it's 8 guys sitting around a table just BSing, talking about sports. I think it lacks in almost every firehouse. Because people are just so busy with life, they don't have time to just enjoy little things. And I truly believe
is it because we're so busy, or is it because we're not willing to make an effort?
Well, I think it's not even that. I think that we don't know how.
Well, okay.
Because I think like you sit down on the back step and we can label the generations whatever we want to say, but we take young people today, and it's one thing I always talk about in my other world when I'm instructing. I said, look them in the eye, and they get uncomfortable with it. And I think that we don't have the skills to sit down and just be like, hey, Rob, tell me what's going on. Mike, tell me what's happening. Yeah. And understand, you don't have to say it. You don't have to give them the answer. You just got to let them
open the channel.
But it takes somebody to facilitate that conversation.
Thank God we're doing it tonight.
But
you're right.
I agree, because I tend to be that facilitator. When I'm at the firehouse, it's always story time, and guys will always hang out longer. But I do find my time is limited more now than ever.
Unfortunately,
right? But we have to make that conscious effort to say, like, man, if I run out of here right now after this call and not spend an extra 5-10 minutes, right? Or on a career side, you get back from the run and everybody go in the kitchen and just grab a seat for 5 minutes and just wind down after that run and so on. But the thing is, if we don't do that, we're losing touch. And it could be the old guy or it could be the young guy, but what we're doing is passing down the bad traits, right? The traits always come from the top down. And that even goes from the chief on down, right? Whatever your department, volunteer career, whether it's your officer or the chief of department, it trickles down. And if there's a culture of, lacking. We were in Westville, New Jersey last week shooting content, and you want to talk about a fire department that understands where they came from. They have museum showroom cases in their meeting room of old props and old things that they have. They absolutely value where they came from, and it was two companies that came together in one in the 80s, and from there they carried on those traditions. But all those products are now being moved to a different room so that their now department can start documenting its new traditions, right? Because the old traditions came from two separate companies, and now they have a new company, and so they want to start their own traditions and values with the new company, right? But
even at the same time, like their apparatus, I was blown away that on their ladder truck they had the Federal Q siren from their Maxim ladder truck and the bell from the 76 Mac, and then they had like their ladder
two paint
pipe
schemes, the whole nine yards.
like their ladder pipe was from the last ladder truck. So like they're always carrying that tradition along, and it's like.
I think you see that in a lot of places, which I know we do.
Okay,
Yeah.
we do it. But here's my thing, right? So now we have all these old guys that sit around. How often are they sharing that story with the new guy that comes in?
And I agree, and that's the issue. It's,
We talk
the
about
new guy runs out, and the old guy might be willing to sit there and
But
talk.
also, if the young guy would stop looking at his phone and come up and approach.
bullshit. I call bullshit, Tucker. The old guys look at their phone just as much as the young guys do.
I don't look at
You don't. But I'm saying, like,
it's
Come on, Tucker. You got your earbuds now, bud.
listen, I love you to death, but I think that sentence is really an easy way to cop out of this conversation. I hear it.
Well, it's a
I hear it all
two-way
the
street,
time.
but you in our day, you still had to approach the old guy.
I understand that, but if
because
you ever-
everybody's unless you approach them, they kind of hold back. Now, if you ask me a question, I'll tell you whatever the story is. But if you don't come up and ask me, it's.
But why should I have to ask? Why should I have to ask?
Because there's.
Why don't you share it with me?
Well, we do to an extent, but it's to bring in other people into the realm.
Yeah, but it's a two-way street.
I'm saying that. But it also has to go the other direction, too. They have to open up as well and come and say, hey, and we always pick out those people that you see kind of wandering off and you grab them and, hey, what's going on, that kind of thing. But sometimes they don't open up. But, they have to also see that as, hey, there's part of your outlet. Yeah, tell me about your day. I don't care about your friends. I don't even know them. But if you want to open up and say, this person's doing that, I'll listen to you. And I think that's what's lacking because people go to their phones and they'll put in these 1-second things to somebody, which I don't think helps their mental health.
But if you engage, they put this down. If there's engagement, right? If we're at the firehouse and there's guys sitting around engaging, these things don't come out. They only come out when somebody's fidgeting and they want something else to do. If they're not comfortable,
But the
if there's not
fidgeting is a
conversation-
lot quicker because they have that. It's almost
Yeah,
like the old
no,
days
listen,
when
I
people
get that.
picked up a cigarette.
But understand,
'cause they had nothing to do.
but understand too, right? This could be today's cigarette.
Yeah,
Right.
it
While
is.
you're talking to me, I do this at work all the time. I'm on the phone with a guy talking to somebody, but I'm on my phone doing something else. Like people also can't be so sensitive about the fact that there is a phone now involved. Everybody owns one. Everybody uses one. We use them at different levels depending on who you are. Listen, whether you look me in the eyes or not, if you're listening, if you're willing to engage, right? I can engage somebody and still have this in my hand. And I'm not saying that that's a good thing. What I'm saying is, though, is that we have to engage. When people are engaged, these go away.
And the proof was the other night in Westville. Like we got that opportunity
Oh, it
to
was
sit
awesome.
down with them, and we started kind of talking about what it was that we do at National Fire Radio and why we do it. And nobody was updating their Instagram. Nobody was,
Because we had everybody engaged.
Right.
Everybody was committed. Everybody was engaged. And that's where I'm going with this at the firehouse, right? It's like, when we're at the firehouse, let's engage. If we engage, right? But typically it takes one or two guys to be that catalyst.
It does.
And if those characters aren't there, it's a whole different animal,
Yes.
right? So how does Jeremy Dunch, 24 years in the fire department, if I'm not there, who behind me is going to take over that role? Right?
I see what you're
We have to make sure that we're doing our part for the next guy. Hey, Joe, when I'm not here, brother, I need you to kind of just roll into this role.
and that falls on the responsibility that you guys talk about, the senior man.
The senior man.
And the culture of the firehouse. I remember the other place I was a captain, 2 kids joined, I brought them in. First thing I showed them was the firehouse. Went through the walls, here's your chief, here's your ex-chiefs, here's a couple jobs. welcome. You know, here's what we run. Any questions? Talk to these 3 guys. They're your oldest guys. Talk to this guy, the next chief. And that kid right now, what was he, a first lieutenant now? Great kid. You know, obviously, like you said, call volumes down, but he's still there every week. He's always, and you can just tell, like his persona at the house at least is completely different.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's that early introduction into the culture of it, the tradition of it, because you can get a guy that joins and says, yeah, I'm here for the T-shirt and the pager, and all he comes is blue lights his way down. And
You know what I think's pretty wild is like we talked about it. And we're gonna have to cut in a minute anyway. Sebby just sent us a note, but I just want to hit on this and we'll cut out for a minute. Everybody joins for their own reasons, but I truly think that if somebody's willing to join, we have the opportunity to engage them.
oh yeah, you
Right.
You walk through those doors.
Right.
He can pull you through the door.
That's right. So we then fail if we can't keep them,
I'll give you that.
or at least understand why we couldn't keep them.
Yeah.
Listen, there's always external, situations and circumstances that like they just can't do it. Time commitment. I realized I didn't know what went into it. But at the end of the day, when we lose people, typically it's our fault. Typically, in the volunteer fire service, when people leave, it's our fault as an institution.
Oh yeah.
We didn't do enough to embrace them, to keep them here, to educate them, to train them, to let them fit in. I mean, these are all things, right? Yes. Are we going to have a few that like just didn't get it or couldn't get it or whatever? Sure, right? That's life. But at the end of the day, I firmly believe that most of our departments have the flaw that we don't work hard enough in valuing our own people. We have to be empathetic to our people, and we have to understand what everybody's there. Everybody's there for their own reasons, and they have their own expectations for themselves, and we have to embrace that on the volunteer side. And so, I just throw that out there, and I think maybe it's a good spot just to cut real quick. We'll come back in a few minutes, but I just think that we, as a volunteer service, need to do a better job really capturing our own culture and building our departments. And if we do that, I think the volunteer fire service is going to be okay.
Definitely.
So anyway. We'll cut real quick. We're being told by tech to cut. Cut.
So we ended the last about 30 seconds ago on talk about values.
Yep.
And we've talked a lot for the last hour or so about our platform and training, and your platform, which is culture and the senior man and everything like that. My question to you guys is, when there's a crappy culture in a firehouse, when there's a crappy senior guy, who changes it? How do you change it? Who's the responsible party in that?
It's generally going to come down, like you said before, to one of those groups, the cliques that decides to do something about it.
The problem is,
But sometimes they're not powerful enough to actually grab other people and bring them in.
And that's how do you change a place that's sinking, and you don't want it to sink, and you're doing everything that you can for it not to sink, but you're only doing so much.
Then it's like minds.
I think
you have to try to grab as many as you can and try to change what's going
It comes
on.
back to what you were saying, dude. Positivity.
Yeah.
It's a contagious.
And get rid of the negative people and don't engage them as much. Because that's what they're looking for. They're looking for the engagement. They want that. Like we were talking about the trollers, same thing. But you have them, but they're in your face this time. So, you have to then find other people that are like you are and try to... This is Jeremy from National Fire Radio.
No, Tucker, go. I'm just busting chops. I mean, I have a whole load to say, but Rob, do it, man.
So, I don't want to say I had a crappy senior guy. I had the perception of a crappy senior guy. Okay. And I had the best senior guy out there. But
Wait. What do you mean by that? I don't necessarily.
He just appeared crappy.
No.
He
Hold
really
on.
wasn't crappy.
What do you mean by that? Perceived.
So, I can talk about it by name because Craig won't be upset. So
and he was on our show.
Yeah, exactly. So if it was that much of a shitbag, he won't have on our show. But,
I'm sorry.
everybody has a chance.
Chad, I'm on your side on this one.
Sorry, Chad. That was a little-
All right, no, Rob, explain. What do you mean perceived? What do you mean by that?
There was a lot of people who had perceived as a lazy senior man or not a good senior man because of his attitudes and he was at the end of his career, which he fully will admit to anybody. So was he going to coddle or keep the environment cold for a snowflake in the street who is wasting his time on the ambulance and wasting the taxpayers' time? He was going to tell somebody, hey, you have a toe ache, a toe ache, and your tooth hurts. All right, cool. walk on into the ambulance, and people would take that as like not motivation.
So
Or when
Right.
he was on fire scenes, he was no nonsense. But what he really was he was the awesome senior man, and he just needed somebody, like, I don't want to say to be on his side, but like I came in and I was like, hey, Craig's a senior guy, and I'm going to give him the senior guy responsibility, because that's really what happened. Nobody ever said to him, you're the senior man of the shift. These are my expectations for you, and we're going to get this together. I'm the a-hole as the officer. Like, I'm going to have to come out and be that guy occasionally. I need you to be the cheerleader in the locker room, getting the troops riled up and getting them behind whatever needs to, whatever they need to move forward. And then he became a great senior guy. And then, like, he started sharing that information, because for years people would complain he's not sharing the information, but he never had the platform to share that information. So in that one angle, that's one way of doing it. And then the second one is, like, seniority is not necessarily in a rank or in a number.
Correct.
And like we had, like, my current group as it sits, I got our friend Joe, as we jokingly say for Joe, and I have Michael Conroy, who was on the show previously, and then we have Han Solo, who's a new guy who's always got a question, and he always asks, Lieutenant, I'll have a question. but
Is that
like
the guy who can't handle his beer?
All right, let's move on.
so anyhow, but like when it comes down to the experience, like seniority, my friend Joe there, he's got the seniority, but Conroy had more time on the job. And no disrespect to Joe, it was like I've had 4 years on, Conroy's got 7 or 8. So I said to him, I was like, listen, when it's hitting the fan, you guys are looking to Conroy for that advice. If you're going down that hallway and I'm outside, like if Conroy tells you to do something, you do it. You follow his words out of that on the scene are my orders. Like, I'm going to trust him to do that. And that's what my expectation was of them. So like when it comes to that person who's being negative, or if they're, I don't want to say if they're that lost cause, but if the ship's sinking and that compartment is damaged, what do they do in the Navy? They shut off that compartment and they lose it. And then the rest of the ship survives. So you may have to tell that senior guy, like, hey man, it's time to sit down and talk about our expectations and what you're not meeting. And it's not a comfortable conversation to have.
But that's part of the two-way street in the fire
Yeah.
service. You know?
And you may find out, like, from them, like, well, actually, you're not meeting my expectations. And there may be some, like, so be prepared for that self-reflection.
Looking in the mirror is very tough to do
Yeah.
for most people. Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. You're in.
No, give me the question again. And I'm not being a jerk, I'm being serious. Give me the question.
Can you use it in a sentence
Can you
form?
fix a sinking ship? That's the basic
Right.
question. Is how do you fix a sinking ship? If it's
How
sinking,
would you?
How would you? How could
And
you?
that's it. So I think, like, there's obviously 1,000 other follow-up questions to that, right? But if you're in a department that is not meeting your expectations, or we're not fulfilling the duty of what we're supposed to be there for, maybe we go that route, right? We have a sworn expectation to protect life and property. It's just what we do. Everything about us gets put on the back burner when it's all about the core mission. So you have to make sure, one, that the department's there for the right reason. And if it's not, that has to be righted. How do you write that? I don't know. I do know this. There's always in an organization a structure of people that actually care. Right?
Yeah.
And we talk about the 10%, 90%, right? We talked about this the other night. We could talk about it again, right? I think what we have to be very careful about is that if you're on a sinking ship, there's 2 things to do, right? One, we talked about not lowering your own standards. So sometimes sinking ship, you got to get off. 2, if it's viable and it can be fixed, you fix it. It depends what you want and how you want it, right? Like, it's called hard work. Everything in life takes work, and everything we do in life requires super hard work. The living I make and the living I give my children and my wife is based on my back of hard work, right? What we do at National Fire Radio is based on hard work. Like, nothing's given to you for free. The way you make an organization work is based on hard work. When we take it for granted and we don't work hard is when things start to slip. When things start to slip, it slips quick. When we give people the ability to slip, when we allow for mediocrity, when we allow for not fulfilling and following rules and following regulations and living up to the expectation that the department has for you, we slip. What we have to do as managers, one, we have to get rid of the nonsense, right? Nonsense and negativity always fuels and it spreads like a wildfire versus positivity. Positivity could take 10 years to get something done correctly. Negativity could take 10 days, right? Inherently, we are a negative society. Look at just politics. Look at today's society. Everything is based on negativity and fear and not the positive, right? So it takes a couple of those guys. You want to talk about senior guys? Yeah. It might not be the guy with 20 years. It might be a guy with 10 years. But that 10-year guy is a leader. It takes a leader. We're lacking leaders in the fire service. Yeah. All the way around. We're lacking guys that are willing to stand up for what's right. We're lacking guys that are willing to stand up for the cause. We're lacking guys that are willing to be men. Like years ago, the best thing that happened was there was a disagreement, the guy slugged it out, and they came back to the table.
Yeah.
Now we're afraid to confront. We're afraid. I had something bothering me last night, and I made a phone call to make sure that it wasn't me overreacting. I thought that I did something, that I wronged somebody. And I was like, it was eating me up, and I said, I gotta call this guy and make sure. I could have just let it sit and stew and make it worse than it could have been. It turned out to be nothing. It was just me being overly caring, because that's really how I am. I mean, I'm a big guy with a big mouth, but at the end of the day, like, I'm incredibly empathetic to everybody. And so, and I think that's what fuels a lot of why I do this, right? Because I love the fire service, and I love all of you guys that you love the fire service. And so, that just fuels this whole thing. And so for me, it's like positivity, man. You gotta get guys in line. You gotta have rules and regulations. You gotta have the ability to understand the core mission. And we've talked about this, we've talked about it many times. It all comes down to hustling, hard work, dedication. And if you're not about that, don't hinder the guys that are. Right? If you're a member of an organization and you might not be the leader, you might not be an alpha dog, you might not be a guy that has this incredible drive and desire to do better. Like me, I hate status quo. Whether it's my career, whether it's National Fire Radio, whether it's my family, whether it's anything, I hate status quo. I always think it can be better. Right? There's nothing in my life that I go, this is awesome. Everything is great, like life is good, right? The day that we do that is the day we're not moving.
Well,
right?
It's like being a shark. There's another quote out there. It's like, sharks don't stop.
Right, they can't.
It's a similar thing. You keep going,
right.
you keep going, you keep eating, you keep feeding, you keep moving forward.
Right.
No matter what it is, for both of us, content or platforms or whatever.
Right.
In the firehouse, whether, all right, we got a new rig. We trained on it. Keep cleaning it, my man. It doesn't matter. Like you said, when we travel, you see it. We all see it. You go out west, those guys, it's like, you can eat off of those rigs. I don't get it.
Westville, New Jersey. We talked about it before. Those rigs, that engine was 20 years old. It looked like it was brand new, man.
It's crazy.
Like, it was unbelievable.
Guys don't stop, and that's what maintains that drive to better yourself. And it comes down to yourself. You might be in a shitty house, but if you want to keep learning, you'll pick up a book.
But that's what I was talking about before.
Exactly.
Right?
And it's just, you have to have it.
Right. So if you're on that sinking ship, Mike, I don't know.
And I just want to say too, like the other thing is there's a great thing that was said to me from a guy who got burned in a pretty bad fire, and he said you could do the right thing, you can do the wrong thing, but the worst thing you can do is absolutely nothing, and that'll get you killed. Yeah. And I think that a lot of times when people get in those situations, they get stuck in that OODA loop where they don't want to get out of it, and they won't do anything. So you have to take an action. You may not make the right decision. And failure is success, because if you have a failure, you're going to learn from it. So do something to get just do something, but don't sit there and do nothing and let the ship
And that's a big thing. We all see it in various aspects, like you said, life, family, houses, or whatnot. Like you said, don't settle for mediocrity. Always push. If you don't have a certain tool and you've been denied it 50 times, well, find another way to ask for it, or show the evidence why you need it. Keep pushing. All right, it might not work, but at least you, your company, and everybody you represent knows there's still a common drive. And it's not just, hey, we need a new truck. Why do you need a new truck?
I agree.
Explain it.
See, it's funny because a lot of people think that I'm a bully. Right? No, I'm serious. Like in my professional world, in the firehouse, how I do things in life, I'm not a bully at all. What I am is I believe in myself and I believe in my way. And unless you can prove to me that your way is better, and I'm not meaning proving, but if you tell me you want to go do something, right, guys? I'm like, go do it. Do it. Go do it. But I expect you to do it. But it's my way unless you can tell me your way is better.
Yeah.
That's not being a bully. What that is I believe in myself and my convictions, and I know myself and I know my drive. where I'm going with this is everybody's entitled to do it their way, but it's in my world, I am so strong in my affirmation that I think it has to be my way. But as soon as you can tell me it's your way because this is X, Y, and Z, and you believe in yourself and you believe in your process, then man, I'll sit back and let you fly. And that's what it's about, right? Like, people don't do that. People can't do that. People have a hard time conveying their message. People have a hard time trying to talk. And this is what we talked about before. When we get back from something, sit down for 5 minutes and talk. It takes a facilitator to do that. Everybody's afraid. Everybody's afraid to talk. Everybody always has their guard up high, which is crazy, man. Like, if you ask the guys in my firehouse, they know everything about me. Right? They do. They know about they know my wife, they know my kids, they know I'm an open book.
Yeah.
I got nothing to hide. A lot of people are always worried about perception. They're worried about what people think about them. Like National Fire Radio, I could give two shits what you think about us. I'm doing this for us. I'm doing it for the fire service, right? I'm doing it for the greater good. If you don't like my content, great.
Unfollow.
Right, like you're not gonna. My feelings aren't hurt.
Exactly.
Right, and so, and that's where I'm kind of going with this. Is like that's what it's all about. So, Mike, back to your sinking ship, man. I don't know if you can write a sinking ship. Some ships are just gonna sink. The Titanic sank. There was
But you
nothing
might be
they
able
could have
to
done.
hold it up for a while,
Or-
so that someone else,
or think about
another
this.
group can come in and help
Right.
you to rebuild.
Right, or you find a way to make it better.
Yeah.
Right? The volunteer fire service is sinking. Right? It is.
Yeah.
But what's making it sink even faster are the guys that are willing to bury their heads in the sand and pretend there's not a problem. It's that we got by today because we had a couple guys around, thank God.
Yeah, what happens
Right?
tomorrow?
What happens tomorrow? And when we bury our heads in the sand and we pretend that there's not a problem, and we all face the same problems, right? It's the fire service. Even the career fire service. These departments are hindered by their staffing. What's your staffing at work?
3 guys on a rig.
3 guys on a rig, right? 3 guys. So you're hampered in your duties to perform. Now, you're held by budget restraints and everything else, right? I get that.
Yeah.
But the volunteer service is still very much the same in the fact that we have a lot of jobs to do with less people, right? If we pretend that that's not an issue, if your city doesn't fight for more people, if our volunteer service doesn't try to put more people in our mill, get them in the volunteer mill and get them in and trained and love our institution, we're going to lose.
Yeah.
But if we're trying, we're doing our best, right?
At least try. You have to
At least try.
That's half the
When
battle.
you bury your head in the sand and pretend there's not a problem is when you lose. And so sometimes a sinking ship is going to sink, right?
Yeah.
That's just fact.
It's fact.
But if you have a culture, if you have that tradition and the roots in that department that fuel the growth, you might hit a speed bump, right? You might be at a place right now or a crossroads in your hometown department where you're like, man, it used to be so good, now it's not so good, but you have a shitty chief or a shitty boss or a shitty senior man, right? You can fix those. It's finding a way to fix it. You have to be creative. Sometimes you have to take a stand. Sometimes you got to grow a set of balls. Balls are lacking in the firehouse. Plain and simple.
And sometimes you have to think about. I hate using the word manipulation because it's really.
It's a game.
But it's a game. Like
Absolutely.
sometimes, there's been times where I've been south and they're all kind of sitting around and I'm like, hey, up at work the other day we were doing this. Do you mind if I take some of the new guys and show them? And if you want, I'll even write up the training outline for you so that way you can put it in the computer, no problem. And that officer who's kind of being lazy and sitting on the couch will be like, yeah, you know what? Thanks, I appreciate it. Because they may have, in that moment, the weight of the world on their shoulders. And I know this because it's happened to me. And then I go and do that. And then they come out afterward, oh, hey, thanks. I really wasn't thinking about doing anything tonight because X, Y, and Z. So it's always, initiative is probably the key word.
But the hard
Take that
part,
initiative,
and
too.
I talk about this all the time because the fire service is 100% initiative.
Yeah.
On the training end, we train guys to take initiative. But we train them to take initiative. No, but understand, right?
I disagree with that.
Well, no. Let's talk about that because go ahead.
So I think that in the fire service, I think that we've gotten to a point now where we're training for failure, not initiative. Because like you think about the soup and nuts of our fire training, like Fire One School, and Dave Mellon, who's going to be out at Fire X Talk, has talked about this. Like what do we teach our probationary members to do? Don't put the fire out when you get in there. Hit it real quick.
I understand.
That.
Okay.
Like, and
Again,
that,
okay.
that aspect, I think it's systematic because, like, right in the like, I took essential firefighting for all the New Yorkers out there. So like, this was a like balls to the walls firefighting kick-ass class, and like my instructor was John Haushold, and I'm like, he gave me the great foundation to be an awesome firefighter. But I think that when we take something like a live burn, and the first time we're bringing firefighters into a building, and we're telling them don't put the fire out, or like we're making it so that like the heat dampers kick off at 300 degrees and it ventilates all the heat out, like we're setting them up for failure. So that it's almost like in one aspect, this most important part of the training, we're giving them like that timeout card, or you know.
I get that, but let's take it where I kind of take
Okay.
it, right? Is where I'm thinking is, firefighting, it's great. You go to the fire academy and they teach you, you have a buddy, it's the buddy system, blah, blah, blah. Guess what? Real world, it's not.
Mm-hmm.
When you're assigned to a three-man truck, and you're the OV or you're the roof, guess what? If you don't have initiative, your job's not going to get done.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the other end of the spectrum, right? It's like, you're the OV, you're the guy from the rear. You guys posted that Christiana video the other day. It was great, man. That guy giving reports from the rear. Like, typically the OV and the roof firemen are more senior firemen, right? That's just fact, right?
Yeah.
So I get that. But we don't always have that luxury. So we have to teach and instill those values into these guys, that they have to be able to take that initiative to know when to take glass, when not to take glass, when to open doors, when to cut the roof. Like, these are all tasks that are largely based on taking initiative. The problem is it's very, very difficult to teach initiative. Because that's where, when we talked about it the other day, about typically we're all A personalities in the fire service. We're all leaders. You have to take initiative. When you're a leader, you take initiative. When you're a follower, you follow. So followers need to learn by example, and then we can get them there, but they're still going to be hesitant about whether they should take that glass or not.
But we're also a pseudo-military operation.
True.
So people look at the hierarchy and they expect things to come down. And a lot of times they may not take the initiative, especially if they're new.
Right. So where I'm taking this is take it from the fire ground where initiative is imperative.
Yeah.
Right? To do your job. But then take it another step further and take initiative to the firehouse. If we don't have guys that are willing to take initiative, they won't speak up. They're not going to make change. They're not going to want change. They're not going to want to, train. They're not going to want to grab Rob, let's go force a door. Let's go out and do this. Let's do equipment checks. Like, all these things, right? Initiative is what it's all about. And it's either I'm a firm believer that you either have it or you don't. It goes to that alpha dog type mentality. You either have it or you don't. And if you don't have it, we try to teach it to you and try to instill. And through repetition, you get comfortable with making decisions, but you still won't take initiative to do other chores and tasks. Maybe I'm wrong.
No,
That's me.
But before the break, we started
Yeah.
to touch on it. It's up to the house and the guys in the house to build that environment, or at least bring you into that environment and have that environment.
Allow for it to happen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So don't be like, hey, Rob's here, whatever. We're not gonna. No, give him the opportunity. If the kid wants to be there every day of the week for an hour a day,
Absolutely.
he might be the most annoying person in the world.
Right.
But if he's there putting in all that time, give him a shot, because you're not there every day of the week.
Right.
So, all right, he might need an extra couple years to catch another couple fires or something, but the kid's there. Drive him. Let him take the wheel a little bit. Obviously, guide him, teach him this way and that way. Really mentor him at that point. But
I
keep
agree.
the wheels turning.
The best thing you can do is embrace our fellow brothers, and especially the new kids. Embrace them, make them feel wanted, make them feel warm and fuzzy, and then give them some responsibilities way outside their realm. Teach them that, right?
Yeah, also, like, you have a scene, and it was slow to start out as a volunteer scene. So, engine company roll up, and the engine guy is in charge. Well, the chief rolls up, and in some companies, as soon as the chief rolls up, he's in charge.
Yeah.
But that's really not the way it goes. You should explain to him the scene. He may already know because he's on his way, but a lot of times you shouldn't take that job from this guy. Say, hey, you got this. You need anything?
Exactly.
Kind of like, the way we do things as coordinators. I'm not there to do anything for you unless you ask. And that's what the role of the chief should be sometimes, because he should let that younger person. You're gonna take it, but if I see you screwing up, I'm
Then
gonna.
I'll stop.
Hey, you gotta do this.
Part of our problem in the fire service is having chiefs or leaders that aren't managers. We put people in positions that probably on paper look like they belong there, but in the social world and how to manage people, you know what? I run a business. I have employees. Like, I manage people every single day, right? On the fire ground, I used to manage people. Now I'm just nobody. But, like, those are the things, right? But there aren't many good, and I'm not saying I'm a good manager, but I like to think I am.
Yeah.
But there's not many good managers out there.
But that's because a lot of chiefs don't understand the capabilities of the people below them because they haven't been watching. And you need to say, oh, well, I know you're great at extrication, but as a house fire, you're not going in because I know what you do. And you have to know each person's thing and then try to use them when they're on the scene that way.
Chad gets in.
I was trying to get him to talk.
I mean, I think there's that, and especially in the volunteer service, I think there's also just that feeling of entitlement and progression.
Yeah, once you're
Means
there,
once you're
I
there,
learned once.
Jay's
Yeah,
lieutenant.
and then- yeah.
That means I count on 7 years I'll be a fire chief. Why? Why is it that you just feel that you're entitled to be the fire chief? There's no, but you know what I mean. There's no.
I absolutely know what you mean. I mean,
it's just you can count on one hand. You're like, oh, okay, you're at work. Guy sucks. We know he sucks, but he wants a raise, so he's gonna take the test. And the guy who's gonna take the test is gonna pass over the guy who should get it because he wants the raise. It's that feeling of entitlement, I think, that is also killing us. It's just the progression and entitlement.
Well, and in the career service, I was talking to Jeff Dykes. He owns Northern Star Fire, and he does this it's got this little compass thing that goes into a SCBA mask. And it's pretty cool. I'm trying it out at work right now, but he's in Wisconsin. We were out at Fox Valley Technical College. But
We flew out of there, douche.
yeah.
That's a whole other story.
But the technical colleges or the community colleges in Wisconsin are in charge of the career hiring process. And so, because right when I walked in, I was like, this is a CPAT setup. And if you've ever went through a CPAT, you know what it looks like. And you're like, oh, and I start having post-traumatic stress of it. I hope I get through this. I'm sweating, But Jeff was telling me that at his technical college where he works, the amount of recruits are down. And there's two people that are now taking the test. Those who want to be firefighters and then those who want a paycheck.
Yep.
And that's just it's a whole other issue that so even we talk about volunteer issues in the fire service, it's a career issue too, and we just haven't realized it yet.
And it's like you said, we just haven't realized it yet.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the problems that we have. And it's a major problem.
Well, okay, so
But-
you posed a huge question at us. Let's ask just this question in general, right? What fuels the entitlement? Why do we allow it to happen? Why do we think entitlement is okay? Right?
I think
I think entitlement sucks, and I'll tell you this. We talked about this the other night, and I'll talk about it again. Fire service owes you nothing.
Mm-hmm.
You could be the most active guy and put in the most time out of anybody. Go to the most calls, have the most training, right? And I'm talking about volunteer end, right? Career, fine. Volunteer end, you could be the most active guy. You could have the most responses, the most training. You could be everything in the firehouse, right? Have a key to everything, right? You're not entitled to anything more than maybe me or the other guy that shows up 10% of the time. The fire service doesn't owe you jack shit. You owe the fire service everything.
Oh, yeah.
You sign up to this institution. It's all about the job. It's not about you. And Sebi said it best the other night. We talked about it. And, you go into it with expectations, you're going to lose. When you have expectations, you're always going to be disappointed. If you walk into it without expectation, you win every single time. And so this entitlement bullshit, you're not entitled to anything. You should work for everything that you have. And you should be happy that the department gave you a t-shirt. Yeah. The department gave you a turnout gear. There's departments in this state, not in this state, maybe in the state, but in this country, you have to buy your own stuff.
Yeah.
You don't even, your entitlement, you're not entitled to anything when you join because we can't afford to give you anything, but thank God you're here. Yeah. So you know what, for the guys that come from affluent communities or communities where you get a lot for you being there, suck it up, buttercup. You're lucky.
Yeah.
Go to a department that's got nothing, right? Like, you're not entitled to anything. So entitlement in the fire service is bullshit. Plain and simple. We do it because we love it. We do it for the job. We do it for the craft. We do it for self-entitlement. I do it for myself. I love serving the community. I grew up in my town. I've been a fireman there 24 years. I love doing it for the people. I love helping people. But truthfully, I do it for me. It's it's the rush. It's the excitement. It's the personal satisfaction. It's the brotherhood. It's the friends that I get to make. Like, it's all of that, right? But that place doesn't owe me shit. And when I leave tomorrow, what do I get? Nothing. And that's the thing. Like, we have to understand that. As a fire service, this job was here before us. It's going to be here after us. Exactly. Me and my little portion, my only job is to give my time. If I can give 50 years to the fire service, those 50 years need to be my 50 best years. And I need to try to make it better than what I found it at. But when I leave, I get nothing in return. So you're not entitled. You're not entitled to jack shit. You can go, if you run 500 runs a year and you do 499 calls and you go to every single training event and you mop the floors and you clean the urinals, at the end of the day, thank you. That's all you get. You got to be good with that. If you're not good with that, then you're in it for the wrong reasons.
And
that's hard to
thank you.
That's hard to swallow,
all
brother.
the time.
People
So,
have a hard time
just
swallowing.
Sucking it
That's the
up
problem.
too.
People have a hard time
Sucking
swallowing.
it up.
Right.
Jay, I have a question on that then.
Shoot.
So
Speak up, Steph.
what if it's now? I got this one up here.
Okay.
So what if it's nowadays? It's that everybody gets a trophy mentality.
Right.
You got those guys that,
Yep.
especially in the volunteer houses. You make X amount of calls
Yep.
per year.
Yeah,
you
respond. You're the top responder.
shit like that.
You're the
But-
biggest, the chief's ass wipe. Like, we got them all.
But then look at Westville, like when we went, right?
Right.
Everybody was held to the same standard.
Right.
Everybody was required to. You come in, you're helping clean the trucks after every single call.
I agree.
You do this, you do that. It doesn't matter if you're a line officer, if you're the probie, you're
Right.
doing the same damn thing.
Right.
There's no everybody gets an award for doing this and that. It's just the standard.
Right.
And it's the way that they run and operate that. Maybe that
It's-
could be where that
but
sense of entitlement is coming from.
And I
It's
think
culture.
that's where like we see the departments that excel, like the one, and I know up by us, like we're dying to get them on the show. But like Ulster Hose, they have those requirements, and they hold people to the standard. And if you don't meet the standard, it's bye.
Right.
And I think like we saw it in Westville,
It's
in that locker room, like you got you got what you got out of the locker room where all the gear was. I got responsibility. Right when I walked in, there was like there was a sign hanging on a gear locker that said out of service, and I said, "What's this about?" And I said, "They didn't meet their annual training, so this way, like, if they're in the firehouse, like now they know that they can't go on a call, and like you as the officer know they can't go on a
And
call."
we have that around us.
we do too.
And I was like, "Huh."
But you have to look at it this way, right? We mentioned them before, like Christiana Fire Company, right?
Mm-hmm.
I went there. I sat with those guys at their kitchen table for like 2 hours one night and didn't record a stitch of content. Sat there because I wanted to learn about them, and I'm so excited to get back there. I just talked to them last night. I'm so excited to get back there, right?
Hi, Anthony. Hi, Ryan.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. But where I'm going with this is this. That's a department of many that are really squared away. And what's their secret sauce, and why does it work so well for them, right? That's what we need to figure out. But the problem is that their guys, or not, this isn't the problem. The problem in the general fire service is mostly guys are in it for themselves, and they expect something in return. I love the argument, or I love when a guy goes, "This is bullshit, I'm out of here." You know what? I'm out of here. I'm not coming back. Okay, great. Don't come back. Like, we're going to be fine without you. Like, we'll be down a guy. Might hurt a little bit. We'll be fine. The place was here before you. It's going to be here after you. When you're in it for something, we lose. And that goes from a chief on down. When listen, the volunteer fire service is guilty all over the place. We have chiefs that are in for 20 years. What value, and I'm not saying all of them, but I'm saying a lot of people get put in a position and they stay there.
Yeah.
And they get comfortable. But you can't tell me that they're bringing incredible value on their 20th year in a position.
Exactly.
It's very hard to understand that.
I was talking to Mike earlier, I think, at the gym about this. You might break chops about other companies and departments or whatever, but if you see consistent turnover, there's a plan. One of the towns by us, it's, hey, you became captain. All right, yeah, maybe in 7 years you'll be chief, but this is what's expected of you in these next 7 years. You're going to go from here to here to here to here.
Right.
You have to still hit all the marks, but
Right.
here's your succession plan.
Right.
And I mean, that's a whole nother beast. Is like, do you have them? Do you not do them? It's beneficial in some places. It hurts in some places. But that will always keep the gears grinding and
I
moving.
I think there needs to be a succession plan, and there needs to be goals met. The problem that it is I think people are put into that position, and they're doing the bare minimum to meet that goal, and it's seen to the public. Well, okay, Bobby's at training every Thursday, and he's meeting that goal. Give him that shot. Okay, put him up there. He met every point, and you know what? He may be great, but then you get the guy who just did it to do it, and then where are we? We now have a guy at the top who doesn't give a shit about the guy on the bottom.
But
and I think that's a problem.
He was saying, and I guess we all kind of are, you get people that move up the ranks because they've done what they're supposed to, but they don't have that certain something. They don't know their men. They can't make decisions. You don't want somebody running a big fire that's starting to get out of control that really doesn't know tactical firematics and has too much of an ego to ask somebody, hey,
Yeah, I need help.
That's a big killer.
come on over here. I got this problem. People don't like failure, but in the fire service, it's all about the customer. So we have to throw all that aside and try to bring the best thing together to get where we're going.
I think the other thing too is like really what it comes down to. At the end of the day, everybody here has watched Band of Brothers, and if you haven't watched Band of Brothers, go out and watch it.
Yeah.
Because you see,
Look, Rob took it right from him.
we really didn't do that, boys.
No.
All right, we'll cut that part.
Royalties.
Yeah, Tom Hanks.
These are firefighters.
Firefighters.
Right.
Brotherhood.
Thanks, Rob.
Like the 101st Easy Company. There's a great book out there, Conversations with Dick Winters, and he talks about being that leader, and he talks about the culture that he promoted in 101st. What?
Childish.
Yes.
Come on, you looked at me.
Now he gets the finger
Yeah.
wag when
Yeah.
he touches me.
You were talking about Dick Winters. Switch ahead.
So, Chad, you're in. You look at the success of the Normandy invasion with the airborne troops, and they didn't even land where they were supposed to. But I knew his job, and he knew mine. You knew mine. We all knew each other's, and we knew Jeremy's job as the leader because he was the first one out the door, and he was the first one that got whacked. And then, and now,
Somebody had to pick the megaphone up.
but we all were able to move forward. And like we talk about the ego, like Captain Sobel, he was the guy who had the ego, right? And what ended up happening to him, the people they took action. We talk about it. It was the right thing, the wrong thing, or doing nothing. Those NCOs had the opportunity to go into battle with him, and they were like, "Screw this! We'll face a firing squad before we're going to go in with this tyrant." And
again, it falls back on the training. As long as your department's open to discuss what everybody, the probie knows what the chief's doing, and the chief knows what the probie's doing, I think you're going to have a successful. At least you have the outline. For
A little more open.
I don't know if it necessarily entirely falls on the training. I mean, the training aspect is a huge part of it, no doubt. But when it comes down to ego and everything, the ego is what kills people. And because I feel people have egos because they're not challenged. When you're not challenged, you can't learn to adapt.
I'll tell you what egos
Do you think
are.
egos are necessary?
Ego is insecurity.
Right.
To an extent,
Plain
is
and
it
simple.
necessary?
If you have an ego, you're insecure. Guys that typically talk the loudest and bark the loudest are the most insecure.
Right.
Plain and simple. And and that's tough for me to say because I typically have a big mouth, typically out front. But mine is confidence. It's not ego. It can be mistaken as ego, but mine's I'm confident. You'll see, I'll sit back. We do some interviews and I sit back and I don't talk for quite a while.
It's very rare.
It might be. But when I do, it's because I'm absolutely listening because I'm taking it in and saying, wow, man, this is value, this is good.
Those are solid brothers doing solid brother things.
Why are you here?
Home run, baby!
Yeah, here. So,
No, but
go ahead, Rob.
bringing it back, let's say you take something as simple as hitting a hydrant, right? And you bring your whole company out. You could go back to where I started. You bring all 30 of us out on the line to do it. And you make sure that everybody goes through it. Egos are going to be put aside. If the oldest guy can't do it, or at least tell you how to do it, your credibility's shot. I don't care if you were chief 30 years in a row.
Keeps them
My
in
man, if you
Oh, I agree.
If
Bro.
you
That's
can't
my
hit a
favorite
hydrant,
shit in the world. I love it.
or at least
It's game time.
be humble enough to be like, you know what? Yeah, you're right. And now, like, we've been in that situation, in our place where the guys think, oh, I know how to pump. Here's a 10,000 page test. And you're like, okay, can you do it? Well, I'm testing you. Well, I understand that.
Yeah.
But what about thinking?
Listen, we did an SCBA drill. Lights out, packs all apart, blindfolded, right?
Yeah.
Put your SCBA together,
You take it.
get it on, get it right. It's totally taken apart. It's already apart. Put it all together. Your bottle's over here, your harness is over here. I roll in there. I'm like, no problem. I've been doing this for how many years, right? I roll in there. This kid with like 3 years on me destroyed me by like 4 minutes, 5 minutes. Like destroyed me, right? And I sat there. I walked out, and like, you want to talk about like, I love eating shit.
You learn.
I love being humble because a lot of times I'm a humble guy when it comes to like having you guys here tonight, and it's nice to have you here and to like be able to do this and X, Y, and Z. But I'm not a big humble pie eater, man. It's hard for me, right? It is because I'm a leader. I'm the guy out front. But man, when it happens to me, and I sit back, and I always talk about this. The biggest life-changing moment that ever happened in my life was in 7th grade. Kareem El-Taki beat the tar out of me. Punched me in the face and gave me the biggest black eye and almost knocked me out in 7th grade. And I was one of the biggest kids in school, right? And it was a totally cheap shot. I'll throw that out there. But, right, it was one shot and I was out, right? I mean, he basically knocked me out one shot, right? That was one of the most humbling experiences of my life. And I tell my children this. I have 4 kids, and I tell them all. I go, there's always going to be somebody bigger, stronger, better, smarter. You do everything you can in life to be as best as you can. But there might always be somebody better. That kid whooped me that day. And it was one of the most humbling experiences in my life. And that was 7th grade, and I'm 42 years old. That's what it's about, man. Humble pie. You go to the fire ground, if you're going to fucking expect expectations out of some guys, you better be able to do it yourself. And if you can't, you better check back in, get your brain back in the game, and do it yourself. Plain and simple.
And like, that's a big thing. Like, whenever I got into training, I mean, going back to the beginning of this conversation, was a lot of guys that were training me would be like, oh, do this. Like, all right, well, show me.
Yeah.
They couldn't show me. It's like, well, my man, I'm not taking it away from you, but please.
There's a lot of disconnect in the fire service this day with a lot of that, right? I know there are instructors that aren't even firefighters anymore. We have guys at the training academy that don't even run on a department anymore. They haven't been on a call in 10 years.
But they tell you every farm.
Right. And so the disconnect is this, right? Like, at the end of the day, this also goes back, Rob, to where we started. Is we have to impress upon the people that listen to us and follow our pages, right? Both popular social media pages. We have to impress upon the fact that whatever content we put out, please digest it and make it your own. Figure out for yourself if it works, if it doesn't work. If that doesn't work, maybe there's a modification that does work for you. But at the end of the day, make it yours. Do not blindly believe everything you're told.
And we always say that.
Right, I know.
Like, exactly.
Right.
But and then I also believe that, let's say you modify something that one of the 20 of us out in the world today put out.
Pass it forward.
Send it, exactly.
Yeah.
Send it forward.
The biggest thing that somebody told me on the job was, the kid, my cover was blown, like, you've been in Volley forever. You're a super buff, we know. The guy's like, what I don't know that you know may kill me or kill you. Right? And that was like, I was like, holy yeah. Like, the guy's got 20 years on.
Right.
And he's telling me that he doesn't know something I know. I should be able to tell him. And it should be just an open channel. And for me, that was my, like, damn.
Fire service should all be about paying it forward.
That's it.
So, go on that note, like, paying it forward, I know that you guys have something coming up in Ohio.
Yeah, next weekend. Next weekend we'll be at the, and I got to give props to Nick over at Brothers Helping Brothers.
Yeah.
That page and that foundation. He's done some great stuff. But they have at the Miami. I can't mess it up with my tongue will screw up saying it. But the Miami Valley Fire and EMS Conference.
Right.
So Mark Van Appen's the keynote on Thursday. We're teaching Friday 2 classes. And like you said, it was humbling. He reached out to us. He was like, dude, we've been following you. I know you. The conversation. He's like, would you like to teach?
It's great.
I was like, whew, big stage like this. Like, it's awesome. So, it's crazy. So again, it's...
So what is this event?
So it's a 3-day conference. Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We got the Friday block. A lot of instructors from around the country. There's guys from the I don't know, whatever it's called, Memphis, Tennessee area,
Midwest.
Thank you, Southeast.
Right.
It's I thought it was just small, but it's his foundation's blowing up. It's doing
Great.
well. We got 2 classes. One's like a squad concept class, like we're doing here tonight, just discussing the idea. But even that, we put out the question on the Instagram one day just to see, what do you call a squad?
Right.
In New Jersey, there were 12 different answers.
Of course.
Half of them are ambulances, half of them's like, well, I got rescue tools on my rig. One of them's, I got a ladder on my rig.
Right.
It's...
And even the way we were talking about squads in our squad podcast was completely different. than,
Yeah, one guy's like,
everything
hey,
else.
I was really hoping to learn about technical ropes and hazmat. I was like, oh, my bad. I go, well, in the Northeast, a rescue or a squad is more of a, the top dog unit. Like, that's not how we were thinking. And again, the conversation you have through all the DMs is that we're all learning, amazing. And then the second one's the rescue impalement class. Years ago, I was lucky enough to take the PL Vulcan class, and that just
Great class.
just stuck with me.
And those guys have fired up their stuff again, which is fantastic.
It was great. Mark shared one of my posts, and I was like, if this guy, the OG in our decade, Mark Gregory.
Gregory.
He shared it. I was like, whoa! Like for me, that was like another like.
It's cool. It's a
Oh
nod.
my god!
Yeah.
Right. I was like, this is his content.
Right.
Given out, And again, you always pass it forward. You always, and that's one big thing we always end our like presentations or everything with is, you always show everybody that's helped you along the road. Because without anybody, you're nobody, in my opinion. You're always building a path or a legacy per se. And if you don't credit the guys that have helped you out along the way, it's kind of
Because it's bigger than us.
exactly.
It's bigger than you, it's bigger than us.
That's it. It's that simple. When you live by that mantra and you firmly believe in that, everything you do in the fire service is right. And nobody can have anything against you. Absolute authenticity and being who you are and loving the job and the passion for the craft, you win. That's it.
Yeah.
It really is that simple. It's just incredible how muddy that gets.
Yes.
Right. That's it.
Yeah.
Rob?
Amen.
What do you think?
Oh, there's a snow.
So we've been going probably almost 2 hours, Sam.
I was just about to.
I think we can do wrap. Nobody wants to hear us any longer than that. But,
Chad,
listen,
did you
so-
get enough in today?
Hmm?
Did you say
Any last words?
No, I'm
So
good.
this is your opportunity.
I do want
to.
to throw this out. Tonight was fantastic, and the fact that we're neighbors and local, we should probably do more of this.
Yeah.
It was good, and I think where I want to go with this is this. I just want to say that we look to you guys on the training end, and I think you guys are doing good things. I did notice one thing before that I wanted to mention. You're all wearing Flow and Vent hats. When you talked about when you first started, you said you guys are 20 years old and you like to vent a lot. Is vent for venting?
So it's a funny story with the logo. Let's go over the logo quick.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
It came up. So New Age Fire Tactics, cheesy
Right.
as hell. It was
Right.
essentially almost the C grade logo. It was a textbook with like a flame on it.
Right.
Whatever. So
A textbook.
textbook with a flame coming out of it.
Yeah, I'm glad you got rid of that.
It's kind of cheap. I don't know.
I know you guys are around that.
Yeah, you guys, if you ordered T-shirts, you would not have. They would not have sold. They wouldn't have sold.
But I mean, you think of Flow and Vent. Pete came up with the wording of it, and Sarah, our buddy's girlfriend, made the logo. It encompasses so much. I mean, Flow and Vent. It's literally we're just spewing ideas at each other, venting about our problems. So you lose that stress that you could possibly take home or whatever, or to the next call, or just sit at your firehouse and cry all night. You let it out. There's been plenty of times I've called him, and you look at it, you're like, Flow and Vent. Open it up, take a window. So it was like a twofer. We didn't even the second half didn't even think about it.
Oh, I absolutely did. That's why I kind of wanted to end on this, right? It's like I absolutely see the double entendre, if you will, of what it means, right?
And you guys fell into it.
And it just worked. And like I
It
said,
worked itself out.
There's so many more people involved than just the four of us. That's the biggest thing. On the website I put, the first hands-on. It started by two guys discussing it. When the first hands-on drill was, an hour there with three guys, and then it just blew up with anybody that's been a part of this. I always say is a part of it. If you had a conversation with us, you're part of Flow and Vent.
Right.
So it's more than just.
Oh, we're part of Flow.
Exactly. Hey.
You know what's funny though.
How many times have we sat up after a drill and it's just those little ideas just.
But I firmly believe in that because
Grow.
in everything we do, in the departmental visits we do, the people we meet, the people we talk to, the guests we've had in here, without any of that, we have nothing.
And so that's what it's all about. But again, it goes back to that mantra. It's not about us, it's about them.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. So you guys are doing good things. And I wish you nothing but absolute success. And I'm glad we did this tonight.
I appreciate
And,
that.
yeah, and we're going to wrap. And I'm
Yes,
sure
they
we'll
have
sit
a
here for...
phenomenal studio.
Here we go. You know what? Let's talk about this real quick. Right? I'll tell you, like, we'll talk about it just a little bit. You guys, on your one podcast, I heard snicker about our studio.
That was with the Hook and Can Part 2.
Yeah.
See, I wasn't there for that, so I can't put that up.
Mike's like, I'm out.
Mike's likes it like this.
I'm
Yeah.
safe.
My
I don't
buddy,
talk, so I really.
you and Sorrentino were like giggling schoolgirls in the beginning of that.
Of
So
course he was.
I'm sure you guys were together 3 hours before you started recording. But at the end of the day, like I just want to hit on that. You know, this space that we have, we always talk about the studio and we make it sound better than it is. But what this is going to be is this is going to be home base for kind of redefining what we're doing. And so we're excited, and we extended invitations to you, and we do that to everybody that that is part of our family and part of what we're doing here. This studio is called It's Just Home Base, and we're going to be able to do a lot of good out of this thing. And so having a space like this is just,
Absolutely. And
yeah. And so we're excited. So there's a lot of fresh and new stuff that's coming, which
exciting.
It is.
There's a lot of stuff, and I
It
think
really is.
getting back to what we talked about in the beginning. Sorry, Rob, but a lot of exciting stuff comes out of Jersey.
Yes,
Especially this
absolutely.
year,
Yep.
a lot of
Moving
exciting
along.
stuff has come out of Jersey.
But you know what I like about that is that's great, and I love it because I'm a New Jersey guy through and through. But what I'm excited to see is what's popping up because of that.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of pages in New Jersey. I mean, what was exciting for me was the fact that we were able to do a couple get-togethers as New Jersey influencers, right? Like,
But a lot of that started in Wildwood, where everybody sort of lightly got together. I mean, we were all in the same bars and chatting, and hey, you know, we got to do this, and then it kind of happened, and you know that helped to bring all that together. Those brew chats and what have you that we've been doing.
I'm super excited to see where this business is going.
Yeah.
And I don't mean business us or you. I'm talking about the fire industry.
Yeah, it's moving.
I call it a business. It's the industry. Like, there are so many moving parts, but at the end of the day, like, what's happening in this Instagram movement, Facebook movement, YouTube, like, everything that's being put in are pieces of the bigger picture. It's the puzzle, right? And we're putting that puzzle together, and we're kind of redefining where we're going.
Yeah.
And so I'm just excited for that. I'm excited to see. Rob and I were talking about this, just kind of some long-term stuff. And I'm like, I'm excited to see where we are in 5 years, 10 years. Like,
Crazy.
that's exciting to me.
It is.
So it's good, and I'm glad you brought that up. And on that, man, Rob, get us out of here.
Everybody's Rob, National Fire Radio. With Rob, Mike, and wordless Chad from, no, I'm just kidding, from Chad from Flow and Vent. Thanks for joining us. Everybody be safe out there. We'll catch you guys later.
Toodles.